You're doing everything wrong with your focus, and the worst part, you don't even realize it. Millions are following Andrew Huberman's protocols right now. Morning blue light, intermittent fasting, supplements, breathing techniques. But there's something Huberman isn't telling you, something Carl Jung discovered nearly a century ago. Something that will shatter everything you believe about mental optimization. Have you noticed? The more you try to optimize your focus, the less focused you become. It's like your mind is fighting against you. There's a reason for this, a reason the productivity industry doesn't want you to discover. Because if you knew, they'd lose control over you. Jung called it the shadow of efficiency. In 1921, he wrote something that should be in every modern productivity book, but it's not. What resists, persists. What you force, rebels. Huberman teaches you to force your mind. Jung teaches you to dance with it. The difference? It's brutal. Let me tell you a story. Two men, same problem, lack of focus, completely opposite approaches. The first follows Huberman religiously, wakes up at 5 a.m., blue light on his face, MCT oil coffee, Wim Hof breathing session, focused work in 90-minute blocks. It works for a few weeks. Then something strange happens. He starts feeling like a robot. His creativity vanishes. His intuition is dead. He's focused, but focused on emptiness. The second man chooses Jung. He doesn't fight his nature. He talks to it. When his mind wanders, he asks, "What are you trying to show me?" When he loses focus, he investigates, "Which part of me needs attention?" And he discovers something revolutionary. His lack of focus wasn't a bug. It was a feature. His mind was trying to protect him. From what? From what Jung called optimization neurosis. You've become addicted to controlling your own consciousness, and your psyche is rebelling because there's something Huberman will never tell you. Your unconscious mind is infinitely more intelligent than your conscious protocols, and it knows things you don't. It knows when you need to wander to find a creative solution. It knows when you need to waste time to process something important. It knows when your obsession with productivity is killing your soul. Jung discovered this by studying patients who had mentally broken trying to be perfect. Corporate executives, research scientists, brilliant minds who turned their minds into machines. And the result? Depression, anxiety, existential emptiness, what Jung called psychic death by efficiency. So he developed something different, an approach that worked with human nature, not against it. He called it archaeological attention. It works like this. Instead of forcing focus, you explore your lack of focus. Instead of fighting distractions, you dialogue with them. Instead of optimizing your mind, you understand it. It's the complete opposite of what every productivity guru teaches you. And the results are astonishingly superior. Let me show you the difference in practice. Situation: you're trying to work, but your mind keeps going back to that awkward conversation you had yesterday. Huberman approach: that's a distraction. Breathe deeply, return to the task, maintain discipline. Result: you force focus for 30 minutes, then you completely break. You spend 2 hours on your phone without realizing it. Jung approach: my mind is taking me back to that conversation for a reason. What is that reason? What does it want to show me? You stop for 5 minutes. You explore the feeling. You discover that you felt disrespected in the conversation. This unprocessed emotional energy was sabotaging your focus. Result: you process the emotion. You return to work. You focus for 4 hours effortlessly. See the difference? Huberman treats your mind as an enemy. Jung treats your mind as an ally. But there's something even deeper here. Something that will completely change how you see focus. Jung discovered that there are 2 types of attention. The first he called directed attention. It's the one Huberman teaches you. Forced, controlled, limited. The second, he called receptive attention, and this one nobody teaches you because the productivity industry can't monetize it. Receptive attention works completely differently. Instead of you focusing, you allow focus to happen through you. It sounds mystical, but it's pure psychological science. Your unconscious mind processes information 1,000 times faster than your conscious mind. When you stop forcing, you access that power. Jung tested this with hundreds of patients. The results were consistent. People who learned receptive attention had 3 times more creativity, 5 times less mental fatigue, 10 times more job satisfaction, and most impressively, they worked fewer hours but produced superior results. How is this possible? Because they stopped fighting themselves. They discovered that true focus isn't force, it's flow, it's not control, it's collaboration, it's not optimization, it's integration. But here's the problem. Our society has taught us that discipline is force, that productivity is war against our natural tendencies, that to be focused, you need to be a soldier against your own mind. Jung realized that this was not only wrong, but destructive. He saw talented people destroy their lives trying to be perfect machines, and he developed a radical approach. What if, instead of training focus, you trained presence? What if, instead of eliminating distractions, you understood their messages? What if, instead of optimizing your mind, you made peace with it? This changes everything. But let me tell you about the day Jung discovered this. It was 1913. Jung was at the height of his career, respected, successful, seemingly in total control of his mind. Then, something strange started to happen. He began to have visions. Disturbing images invaded his mind during work. His first reaction, to fight them, to force focus, to ignore, to repress exactly what Huberman would teach you today. But the more he fought, the worse it got. The visions became more intense. His focus disappeared completely, until he made a radical decision. He stopped fighting, and he started talking to the visions. What do you want from me? Why are you appearing now? What are you trying to teach me? And he discovered something that changed psychology forever. Those distractions weren't problems. They were solutions. His unconscious mind was trying to communicate with him, to reveal important aspects of the human psyche he was ignoring. When he stopped resisting and started listening, something extraordinary happened. Not only did the visions become organized, they became revolutionary insights, insights that became the foundation of analytical psychology, all because he chose to collaborate instead of control. Now imagine, if Jung had followed Huberman's protocols, he would have suppressed those visions with breathing techniques. He would have forced focus with iron discipline. He would have lost the most important discoveries of his life. This is what's happening to you right now. Every time you force focus, you might be missing something crucial. A creative idea, an innovative solution, an insight that could change your life. Because your unconscious mind is constantly trying to communicate with you. But you've learned to ignore it, to treat it as an enemy, to silence it with protocols and techniques. Jung realized this was a tragedy, because the unconscious is not your enemy, it's your greatest ally. It contains all your accumulated wisdom, all your processed experiences, all your refined intuitions. When you learn to access this, you become unstoppable, not because you force focus, but because you flow with superior intelligence. Let me show you how this works in practice. Technique number 1, mapping the distraction. Every time you lose focus, write down 3 things. What were you thinking before the distraction? Where did your mind go? What emotion was present? After a week, you'll see patterns that reveal how your mind works. What types of work drain your energy? What times of day you're naturally more focused? What unprocessed emotions are sabotaging your concentration? This is pure gold, information that no generic protocol can give you because it's specific to you, to your unique psyche, to your unique patterns. Technique number 2, the investigative pause. When you feel resistance to starting a task, pause. Don't force it. Don't discipline yourself. Ask, what part of me is resisting and why? Maybe you're tired and need to rest. Maybe the task doesn't make sense and needs to be reframed. Maybe you're avoiding something important. When you discover the real reason, the resistance disappears and focus happens naturally. Technique number 3, the attention journal. Every night for 5 minutes write, today my mind took me to, this showed me that I need to, tomorrow I will honor this by doing. This trains your conscious mind to converse with your unconscious mind and creates a partnership instead of a war. Jung did this religiously and developed a supernatural intuition about his own psyche. He knew exactly when he was pushing too hard, when he needed to rest, when he was avoiding something important, when his creativity was asking for space. Result: effortless productivity, focus without force, flow without struggle. But here's what's really revolutionary. Jung discovered that there are different types of focus for different types of work. And when you identify which type you need, everything becomes easier. Analytical focus for solving logical problems requires a clear mind, structured environment, high mental energy. Best time, morning, after adequate rest. Creative focus for generating ideas and insights requires a relaxed mind, inspiring environment, permission to wander. Best time, after walks, during transitions. Integrative focus for synthesis and complex connections requires a contemplative mind, deep silence, patience. Best time, end of the day, after processing. Executive focus for implementation and action requires physical energy, clarity of purpose, momentum. Best time, when you feel naturally energized. Most people try to use the same type of focus for everything and get frustrated when it doesn't work. It's like trying to use a screwdriver to hammer a nail. Jung teaches you to use the right tool for each job, and that completely changes your relationship with productivity. Because you stop fighting against your nature and start dancing with it. But there's something even deeper that Jung discovered, something that will blow your mind. He realized that our modern obsession with focus is creating an epidemic of existential emptiness. Because when you optimize too much, you lose contact with your purpose. You become efficient, but without direction, productive, but without meaning, focused, but lost. Jung saw this happen with dozens of successful executives, men who had optimized their lives to the max, woke up early, followed protocols, were productivity machines, but inside, they were dying because they had optimized life, but lost their souls. And Jung understood something crucial. Focus without purpose is just organized distraction. Productivity without meaning is just sophisticated escape. Optimization without self-knowledge is just disguised neurosis. So he started asking a different question. Not, how can I focus better? But what is worth focusing on? Not, how can I be more productive? But what is really important to produce? Not, how can I optimize my mind? But what do I want to use my mind for? These questions changed everything because they connect focus with purpose, technique with meaning, productivity with soul. And when you have this connection, something magical happens. you no longer need to force focus. Because you are naturally drawn to what matters, you no longer need external discipline. Because you have internal motivation, you no longer need protocols. Because you have clear direction. This is what Jung called individuation. The process of becoming who you really are, instead of who you think you should be. And when you are aligned with your authentic nature, everything flows. Work doesn't feel like work. Focus doesn't require effort. Productivity happens naturally because you are doing what you were born to do, in the way you were born to do it, at the pace that is natural for you. But society doesn't want you to discover this, because authentic people are difficult to control, difficult to manipulate, difficult to sell unnecessary things. So they keep you busy with optimization, with hacks, with protocols, with techniques, anything to stop you from asking, why am I trying to optimize my life? What do I want all this productivity for? What am I really trying to achieve? Jung invites you to ask these questions and discover that the answer might be completely different from what you imagined. Maybe you don't need more focus. Maybe you need more clarity. Maybe you don't need more discipline. Maybe you need more alignment. Maybe you don't need more optimization. Maybe you need more integration. The difference is subtle, but revolutionary. Because it changes you from a warrior against yourself to an ally of yourself, from an optimizer of your life to a creator of your life, from a follower of protocols to the author of your own path. And that is true freedom. The freedom to be who you really are, to work as you really function, to focus on what really matters, without forcing it, without struggling, without optimizing yourself to exhaustion, just being authentically you. Jung knew this was possible because he lived it, and now you can too. The question is, are you ready to stop optimizing your life and start living it? But before you answer, let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a corporate executive at a multinational company. She woke up at 4:30 a.m., the full Huberman protocol, blue light exposure, breathing exercises, supplements, 90-minute focus blocks. She was a machine, productive, efficient, admired by all. Until the day she collapsed, literally. She fainted during a meeting. Complete exhaustion. The doctor said her body had simply given up. 3 months of forced leave. And it was during those 3 months that she discovered Jung. First with skepticism, then with curiosity, finally with reverence. Because Jung helped her understand something that no protocol had revealed. She wasn't just physically exhausted. She was existentially exhausted. She had optimized her life, but lost her soul. So she started experimenting with the Jungian approach. Instead of forcing focus, she started talking to her resistance. Instead of ignoring tiredness, she investigated its messages. Instead of following external protocols, she developed internal rhythms. The results were surprising. In the first 2 months, her productivity dropped by half. But something strange happened. The quality of her work skyrocketed. She started having insights she'd never had before. Creative solutions appeared out of nowhere. Relationships improved dramatically. And for the first time in years, she felt alive. When she returned to work, her colleagues were shocked. She worked fewer hours than any executive in the company, but produced results superior to everyone else. How was this possible? Because she had discovered the secret that Jung taught. When you stop fighting against your nature, you unleash superpowers you didn't even know you had. But let me show you something even more specific. Jung identified 7 signs that you're forcing focus too much. And when you recognize these signs, everything changes. Sign number 1. Unexplainable fatigue. You sleep 8 hours but wake up tired. This isn't lack of sleep. It's excessive mental effort. Your mind is fighting against itself 24 hours a day. Jung called this inner psychic warfare. The solution isn't more discipline, it's more self-acceptance. Sign number 2, creativity in free fall. You can perform tasks, but you can no longer innovate. Your mind is so controlled that it has lost spontaneity. Jung would say, "You have disciplined your soul to death." Creativity needs controlled chaos, not absolute control. Sign number 3, increasing irritation. Small things bother you disproportionately. This happens because you're using all your mental energy to maintain control. There's nothing left for patience. Jung observed this in all his super-disciplined patients. Sign number 4, paradoxical procrastination. You have all the techniques, but you still postpone important tasks. Why? Because your unconscious mind is sabotaging protocols that it perceives as oppressive. It's an internal rebellion. Jung taught, talk to the resistance, don't fight it. Sign number 5, loss of intuition. You stop feeling the right decisions. You become dependent on rational analysis for everything. This happens because excessive optimization disconnects you from intuitive wisdom. Jung considered intuition the most important psychic function. Sign number 6, superficial relationships. You function well professionally, but you feel disconnected from people. Because when you optimize too much, you lose emotional spontaneity. You become predictable, mechanical, artificial. Jung said, machines don't inspire love. Sign number 7, growing existential emptiness. You achieve goals, but you don't feel satisfaction. Each achievement seems empty. This is the most dangerous because it means you optimize the means, but lost the ends. You became efficient, but without purpose. Jung saw this as death in life. If you recognize 3 or more of these signs, it's time for a radical change. You don't need to abandon everything, but you need to integrate Jungian wisdom into your life. And for that, Jung developed what he called the 5 keys to individuation. 5 principles that transform your relationship with focus, productivity, and life. First key, internal authority. Stop following external protocols without question. Start developing your own methodology. Jung said, imitation is easy, individuation is courageous. Ask yourself, does this protocol make sense for me, for my specific nature? If not, adapt or abandon it. Second key, natural rhythms. Discover your internal cycles. When are you naturally more creative? When do you need mental rest? What kind of environment energizes you? Jung kept a detailed diary of his rhythms for decades and developed a supernatural intuition about when to do what. Third key, conscious dialogue. Treat different aspects of your mind as real people. Talk to your creativity. What do you need today? Dialogue with your discipline. How can I honor you without destroying myself? Ask your intuition, which direction should I take? Jung did this daily and revolutionized psychology through these internal conversations. Fourth key, integration of opposites. Stop trying to be perfect. Accept that you have disciplined and chaotic aspects, focused and scattered. Productive and lazy. Jung taught wholeness includes darkness. When you accept your totality, you stop wasting energy fighting yourself. Fifth key, evolutionary purpose. Connect your actions to something bigger than productivity. Ask yourself, how does my work contribute to my evolution as a human being? How does my focus serve not only external goals, but inner growth? Jung believed that all meaningful work is also spiritual work. When you apply these 5 keys, something extraordinary happens. You don't abandon discipline. You humanize it. You don't abandon focus. You make it sustainable. You don't abandon productivity. You connect it with purpose. And the result is a life that is simultaneously effective and satisfying, productive and meaningful, disciplined and authentic. But here's what's truly revolutionary. Jung discovered that there's a state of consciousness where focus and flow become the same thing. He called it the transcendent function. It's when you're so aligned with your authentic nature that work becomes meditation, focus becomes naturalness, productivity becomes creative expression, discipline becomes self-love. In this state, you don't need to force anything because you're being who you truly are, doing what you were born to do, in the way that's natural for you. Jung lived in this state for decades and produced a body of work that changed the world. No protocols, no forced optimization, no inner war, just conscious collaboration with your own nature. This is possible for you too, but it requires courage. Courage to question everything you've been taught about productivity. Courage to trust your inner wisdom more than external gurus. Courage to be different in a society obsessed with optimization. Courage to choose authenticity over efficiency. Jung knew that not everyone is ready for this journey. Because it's easier to follow protocols than to develop your own wisdom. Easier to imitate than to individualize. Easier to optimize than to integrate. But for those who are ready, the reward is extraordinary. A life where you don't need to force yourself to be productive, because productivity flows naturally from who you are. A life where you don't need to struggle for focus, because focus emerges naturally from what you love. A life where discipline isn't punishment, but self-care, where work isn't sacrifice but expression, where success isn't conquest but alignment. That's what Jung offers. No more techniques, no more protocols, no more optimization, but a completely different way of relating to your own mind, a way based on collaboration instead of control, understanding instead of force, wisdom instead of technique, love instead of discipline. And when you make this shift, everything changes. Your relationship with work, your relationship with rest, your relationship with goals, your relationship with yourself. You stop being an optimizer of your life and become the creator of your life. Stop being a slave to external protocols and become the author of your own path. Stop fighting your nature and start dancing with it. And this dance, this is true productivity. Not the one you force, but the one you allow. Not the one you control, but the one you facilitate. Not the one you optimize, but the one you live. Jung discovered this 100 years ago. The question is, how much longer will you take to discover it? How much longer will you spend fighting yourself? How much longer will you try to be a perfect machine when you can simply be human, gloriously, authentically, productively human? The choice is yours. But remember, while you're optimizing your life is passing by. Jung invites you to an alternative. Stop optimizing, start living, stop forcing, start flowing, stop fighting, start dancing, and discover that on the other side of the war against yourself is peace with yourself. And in that peace resides a productivity you never imagined possible. A productivity that doesn't tire, that doesn't exhaust, that doesn't destroy, but that nourishes, that inspires, that transforms, not just you, but everyone around you. Because when you stop fighting your nature, you become an example of what's possible, a beacon for others who are also tired of the war, an invitation to a different way of being, a Jungian way of being, authentic, integrated, alive. Because when you stop fighting, something magical happens. Your mind stops resisting and starts collaborating. But there's a specific technique Jung used, a technique that can transform your relationship with focus in 24 hours. He called it active dialogue with distraction. It works like this. The next time you lose focus, don't fight, stop, breathe, and ask your mind, what are you trying to show me now? Then, listen, for real. Don't judge, don't force, just observe what emerges, a worry, an idea, an emotion. Instead of pushing it under the rug, dialogue with it. Why is this important now? What do you need from me? How can I honor this need and still do my work? This seems slow, inefficient, but here's the secret. 5 minutes of conscious dialogue saves 2 hours of unconscious struggle. Because when you honor the needs of your psyche, it stops sabotaging you and starts supporting you. Jung tested this personally. For 20 years, he kept a journal where he talked to all the parts of his mind: fears, desires, intuitions, resistances. The result? He produced the most creative and profound body of work in modern psychology, while maintaining a balanced and satisfying life. No protocols, no forced optimization, just conscious collaboration with his own nature. But the productivity industry doesn't want you to know this, because if you learn to work with your mind, you no longer need hacks, you no longer need supplements, you no longer need techniques. You become naturally focused. And that's threatening to those who make a living selling solutions to problems they themselves created. So they keep telling you that you need to discipline yourself more, to strive more, to optimize more. While Jung whispers, what if the problem isn't a lack of discipline, but an excess of inner war? What if the solution isn't more control, but more understanding? What if you already possessed everything you need, everything you require to thrive? And all that remained was learning how to access it. That changes everything, doesn't it? Think about that for a moment. The implications are profound. We're so often caught in this relentless pursuit of more productivity, more efficiency, more self-optimization. We chase these elusive goals, these metrics of success, as defined by a system often at odds with our own inner landscape. And in this relentless pursuit, we often overlook the rich, untapped potential already residing within. Andrew Huberman, with his focus on optimizing the biological mechanisms of our brains and bodies, offers valuable insights into enhancing focus, improving sleep, and boosting energy levels. These are powerful tools, but they're tools. And like any tool, their effectiveness depends entirely on the intention behind their use, on how we integrate them into a broader understanding of our being. Carl Jung, on the other hand, offers a framework for understanding the deeper psychological processes that drive our actions, our motivations, and our very sense of self. He speaks of the shadow, the unconscious aspects of ourselves that we repress, and the vital role these play in our overall well-being. The shadow of efficiency, this relentless drive to optimize, can ironically lead to burnout, to a sense of emptiness, even to what Jung might term psychic death by efficiency. The optimization neurosis, this pervasive modern affliction, blinds us to the subtle nuances of our internal world. It stifles creativity. It robs us of the joy of simply being. By relentlessly focusing on external metrics, we disconnect from the intuitive wisdom that resides deep within our unconscious. Huberman's techniques can enhance our ability to direct our attention, to focus on specific tasks. But this directed attention, without the counterbalance of receptive attention, can become a form of psychic impoverishment. It's like constantly using a magnifying glass, focusing intensely on a single point, while neglecting the vast and vibrant tapestry surrounding it. We need to cultivate archaeological attention, digging deep to uncover the hidden treasures within our own psyches. Imagine the modern executive, immersed in the relentless demands of the corporate world. Following Huberman's advice on blue light exposure in the morning, intermittent fasting, optimizing their intake of MCT oil, even incorporating Wim Hof breathing sessions into their routines, all of which are valuable practices. But what if, amidst this meticulous optimization, they are neglecting the deeper needs of their soul? What if their relentless focus on productivity is blinding them to the very things that bring them true fulfillment? The brilliant minds of Silicon Valley, driven by the promise of technological advancement and unparalleled success, might benefit from a Jungian perspective. The 90-minute work blocks, the relentless pursuit of efficiency, all contribute to a culture where burnout and mental health issues are rampant. A culture that often prioritizes productivity at the expense of overall well-being. It is not about rejecting Huberman's methodology completely. These tools are invaluable. It's about finding a balance, a harmony between the external optimization of our lives and the internal cultivation of our souls. It's about understanding that the true power lies not in achieving more, but in accessing what we already have within. It's about the integration of these two seemingly disparate approaches, the scientific optimization of Huberman and the introspective wisdom of Jung. It's about remembering that while efficiency and productivity can be our servants, they should never become our masters. The question becomes not how to achieve more, but why. And the answer to that may lie in exploring the depths of our unconscious selves, understanding our own shadows, and accessing the incredible potential that already lies dormant within us.